Welcome back. We're talking with the host of Economic War Room with Kevin Freeman. That would, of course, be Kevin Freeman. And we are talking with him about economic warfare against this country and what it means to you. Might it even mean the end not just of your liberties or even our country, but of your own physical condition and that of your family? We're going to pivot in the latter case to the issue of food insecurity, which is now becoming not just a problem in a lot of other places around the world, but increasingly here. Kevin, you had one of our favorite duty experts on this subject on your wonderful program, Economic War Room, a fellow by the name of Ross Kennedy, very recently. Talk a little bit about what you and Ross have established is going on at the moment and why.
Yeah, the current episode is on Economic War Room is all about food security. And what we walk through, you've probably heard these rumors of fires at processing plants and food plants. Then there's the avian flu where
I
they
don't think
have
they're
to.
rumors, are they? I think that there have been, in fact, an awful lot
No,
of these plants taken offline
you're
somehow.
exactly right. You're hearing rumors of a concerted effort to
Hmm,
take down plants,
there we go.
but there are dozens of plants that have been had mishaps. And some of it is like cyber attacks where they've been taken offline from cyber attacks, and the security people say, yeah, no, that's a real threat. Or fires at the plants, or other mishaps, or you have avian flu where they've killed entire flocks of chickens because one bird
Hmm.
had flu. And you look at that, and
You've
then
even
you
had two, as I understand it, that have had aircraft fly into them, which
yes.
reminds me of kind of 9/11. That's no accident, comrade, is it?
Well, the Snopes says it's an accident. It's just a coincidence. These happen all the time. People just aren't looking out for them. But the reality of it is that our food supply is in worse condition than it's been in modern times.
Hmm.
And the reality is the shelves are bare. Whether it's bare from the infant formula because there was a problem in the plant and they didn't get in and look at the plant quickly enough, or if it is a supply chain issue, or if it is fertilizer from Russia that we're expecting but won't get because of the war, or if it's because the Russian wheat production or Ukrainian wheat production went down, we are facing a substantial food crisis. And that is not a rumor. The IMF says it, the United Nations says it, the Rockefeller Foundation says it, Bill Gates said, across the board, everyone agrees, oh, there's food problems coming. And we see it in our grocery bill. The prices have skyrocketed. There are food shortages that are developing. We went from an abundance of food not long ago to massive shortages. And one has to step back and say, is this happening because everything's gone wrong all at once? Or is this happening because there's a concerted effort to impact our food supply? And I don't think that there is a legitimate way to shoot down that concern.
Yeah. Well, it does seem, Kevin, as though, eh, drawing on what we talked about before the break, we're confronting adversaries who specialize in this doctrine of unrestricted warfare that endangering or even constricting our food supply at a moment when they're constricting an awful lot of other supply chains. Uh, how could they possibly miss this bet? And I'm talking here about specifically the Chinese Communist Party, which has, as I understand it from Ross, among others, been stockpiling, hoarding
Yes, they have.
enormous amounts of food themselves. I mean, huge percentages of the world's supply of grains, I believe, and rice and corn. Um, have you satisfied yourself that this is not actually part of a plan on the Chinese Communist Party's part?
No, and I don't think you can. I think that's the point is that you can't rule that out. Frank, you're the one who brought up the phrase "Have you eaten lately?"
Hmm.
And the reality of it is that we're facing a mass food shortage, and the enemies of the United States that we know have conducted war in every other field of battle, potentially economic or financial or physical or societal or rare earth minerals, that same group of people, the Chinese Communist Party, has stockpiled food presciently and then watch this happen, happenstance. I don't think
Mm,
that's true. I think it is very likely that they have a hand in this, but
yeah,
not just them. Major food processors, major food exporters, World Health Organization. You walk through this and you say you can't rule out a broad conspiracy here. I don't want
yeah,
to believe it, but there is just so much evidence that you can't rule it out.
yeah. And Kevin, you're a serious student of things economic, of course. This is a product in part of the same phenomena that has brought us these other supply chain dependencies, which is we'll just have a what they call just in time model. We'll move offshore where it's cheaper, the manufacturer of all kinds of things, or the source of raw materials, in case of, as you say, rare earth minerals. And we'll just get it when we need it. And of course, it'll always be available to us when we need it, even though the people who have over time inexorably come to be able to actually cut off those supply chains are, as I said, our mortal enemies, the Chinese Communist Party. And, this whole thing seems to be having a case of the wheels coming off the train, whether it's food, whether it's chips, whether it's medicines, as you say, rare earth minerals, and on and on. We've put ourselves in an extremely precarious position, to say the least. Can you give us any comfort that we're now rectifying that situation? And if so, can we do it in a timely enough way to prevent possible, well, disaster, food, and in some of these other cases as well?
Well, and when you say disaster, it goes beyond just traditional disaster. Starvation is a very serious thing, obviously, but a shortage of food also causes destabilization and riots. That was the
Big time.
cause of the Arab Spring. It is the number one most effective weapon that you can use to destabilize a society is to deny them food. Now, are
Mhm.
we rectifying the situation? Unfortunately, it seems that the hands of government are either moving very slowly in addressing the problem, or we are literally destroying food. Some people are destroying it because they want to protect the climate, or we're destroying it because we're putting food in our gas tank in the form of ethanol because we don't want to drill here in the United States, or we're destroying it because we're paying farmers to roll under crops. Those things are happening right now while we're seeing these food crises. It looks like that some people are just going along with the government and the long projects. It looks like others want to see the destabilization that will come from a food crisis. Are we
Mm.
solving the problem? Well, I think patriotic farmers are trying to do so, but guess who owns all the farmland? The Chinese and Bill Gates and all the billionaires have been buying farmland. This is a very serious issue that we're going to have to face, but those outside the United States will have to face it even more directly because we'll just have higher prices. They may have absolute shortages and starvation.
You couldn't be more right about this. Whether it is all by design, whether it is part of a conspiracy, whether it's some people conspiring or some people trying to engineer certain outcomes, in a way, it doesn't matter because if it succeeds, it will be horrific for millions and millions of Americans and maybe imperiling our country. But if indeed what we're up against is a concerted um, collusion to that end, it means that we have to really drop everything and remedy the situation. And Kevin, I just can't tell you how much I appreciate Economic War Room. People need to both check out the shows and their battle plans, which Kevin produces, including one with Ross Kennedy's recommendations, required reading. Kevin, come back to us again soon with updates, if you would. Next up, Colonel Peter Metzger joins us. We'll talk about philanthropy for vets, making sure it gets to them right after this.